great city of Pico, Rivera for our annual Veterans Day ceremony. I hope everyone enjoyed the breakfast. How was the breakfast? Fantastic. How was the band? Let's hear it for the band. So I'm sure today's program is going to inspire you and fill you with great sense of pride for our country. Not only do we plan to honor and commemorate veterans all across the nation, but we would also like to extend a heartfelt thanks to the brave men and women of the armed forces who live here in Pico Rivera. Let's give them a round of applause. Before we do that, though, I would like to tell you a little bit about today's distinguished Master of Ceremonies, our very own mayor, the Honorable Bob Archuleta. Now, there was a rumor going around that Mayor Archuleta was parachuting in from China on a stealth. I kind of saw him parachuting down, so he made it here, took off his equipment, and was ready to dress in a suit. So not only is our mayor a former combat veteran and paratrooper with the 82nd Airborne Division, but he also served as a presidential appointee under 44th President of the United States, Barack Obama, as a member of the Visitors Board to the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. Additionally, he has served for the Montebello Police Department, the U.S. Secretary of Veterans Affairs, and as a chairman of the U.S. Small Business Administration Advisory Committee on Veteran Business Affairs. Bob has received several congressional recognition awards and numerous proclamations for his service, as well as being recognized by the Vietnam Veterans of America, Hispanic American Airborne Association, the Veteran of Foreign Wars, and the 11th Airborne Division Association. So please join me in welcoming our Master of Ceremonies, our very own Mayor, Honorable Bob Archuleta.
Well, thank you, Rene Bobadilla, for that great introduction. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a special surprise for you today, and that is, just look around. That is a surprise. Look around at all the people that are here to honor our veterans. Well, it's no surprise to me, because here in Pico Rivera, we love our veterans, do we not? And before I go any further, I'd like to acknowledge our veterans that are in the house. Those who have come for the first time, thank you for being here. Family members who you brought someone here for the first time, thank you so very much. Well, once again, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, family and friends. Welcome to our 2017 Veterans Day opening ceremony. I'm so glad to hear that you've enjoyed the breakfast. I understand we kind of blew it with the coffee. We'll make that up for you next time. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you today and come together in remembrance of our service members, our men and women who serve with remarkable courage and immeasurable sacrifices. I would like to begin by sharing some history about Veterans Day and why we're here today. Well, Veterans Day originated as Armistice Day on November 11th, 1919, during the first anniversary of the end of World War I. In 1926, Congress passed a resolution for an annual observance of this celebration on November the 11th, which was chosen as the appropriate national holiday to honor and recognize our veterans. On November 11th, 1958, this plaque that I have before me, and I think it's here somewhere. Arlene, I want to show you everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Do we have the plaque? Yes? The plaque. She forgot to read the script. Arlene, do you have it? It's coming. We found this plaque, ladies and gentlemen. Council members and ladies and gentlemen, we're about to acknowledge our 60th anniversary. Renee, you can stand there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we talk about our veterans, but listen to this. Back in November of 1958, November 11th, 1958, this plaque, Renee, turn it around. I know you can't see it, but it was presented to the city of Pico Rivera by the veterans in this entire vicinity. And it reads, presented to the city of Pico Rivera by the veterans of this vicinity, the American Legion Post 411, American Legion Post 341, VFW Post 7734, VFW Post 6315, and it's dated November 11th, 1958. Imagine we found this, 1958. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was 59 years ago. The same year the voters came together and decided that the city of Pico Rivera should be a city, joining the city of, well, the township of Rivera and the township of Pico, and we joined together in 1958, and we became Pico Rivera. Well, now we're going to acknowledge our 60 years. So we're going to put this plaque at the museum, and we're going to have a time capsule. And this will go into the time capsule to represent all the veterans in this city who've worked with us, who believe in us, and that we in turn believed in you. It will go in the time capsule and will come out 2058, and I expect you all to be there. 2058 to celebrate our 100 years. Renee, thank you for doing that. So that is going to be the first thing that goes into our time capsule, and one day, your children, grandchildren, someone will open up that time capsule and they'll pull it out and it'll say, the veterans of Pico Rivera were honored, were loved, and like no other city in the country in America. How about that, ladies and gentlemen? So today's special Vietnam Veterans Program is a tribute to all American veterans who served proudly and have served this great nation. I'd like to ask the service members and the veterans who are here today to please stand so we may honor you. All our veterans, please stand. World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the Persian Gulf, if you served, are serving now. Look around, ladies and gentlemen, the number of veterans that we have in the house. Oh my God. As a member of the 82nd Airborne, I'm so proud to see so many young troopers that are here. Ladies and gentlemen, these are our veterans. They represent us. And way in the back, we got the firefighters from the LA County Fire Department. We got representation of the LA County Fire, from the Sheriff's Department. All our veterans in the house. Thank you so much. We love you. Thank you. Thank you for answering the call of duty. We shall never forget your service, your sacrifices. And many of you will always turn the clock back and look in the mirror, and you may see this guy that's 75 or 85, but when he looks in the mirror, he sees that young pup at 18, 19 years old in uniform. And don't tell me you don't have a picture just like that, because I know you do, and you say, hey, grandkid, look at that picture on my mirror. That's when I was 18 or 19, and don't I look sharp? And of course, the grandparent says, yes, Grandpa. So once again, thank you for your service and your sacrifice. And now this is something we'll be very, very proud of. Talk about service and sacrifice. We as veterans could never do what we did. We could never go off and serve our country without the family support. So I'd like to have the men and women who are in the room right now in the house who have family members who have served, are veterans, or are serving right now. Mom, Dad, Grandpa, sister, please stand for your veteran in your heart. Look at all the family members. Imagine the aunts, the uncles, the grandmas, dads, all of you who served. And you know, it was the family we left behind when we went off to serve, is that the tears came down. And I will say, girls, I'm sorry, it wasn't for the girlfriends, it was for Mom. And that first letter that came home from basic training, sorry girlfriends, it was for Mom. And of course, when we got home, we said hi to Dad, give me the car keys and give me 20 bucks. You remember that, guys, I know you do. Well, now, it is here in Pico Rivera that the home fires have kept burning, and they shall continue to burn to recognize your service. We reflect always the true cost of freedom here in the city of Pico Rivera. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite a group of veterans that are with us every year, the Valley Veterans Memorial Team, to conduct the presentation of colors. Sergeant? Please stand, ladies and gentlemen, and it is very appropriate to applaud these young veterans who served our country. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, Merchant Marines. They represent all branches of service. And now for the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like to invite the Ladies Auxiliary to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, representing the American Legion Post 341, Laura McGee, and American Legion Post 411, Isabella Gallardo. Veterans, Foreign War Post 6315, Dorothy Villalobos, and Veterans of Foreign War Post 7734, Jane Pena. Ladies
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for the national anthem. And we have a surprise for you today. Today we have young Vanessa Bobadilla. Our city manager, Rene Bobadilla, is so proud of his daughter who took the singing lessons, and she's been practicing all week. So ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Vanessa Bobadilla in our national anthem.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Wow! Amazing! Rene Bobadilla, you did a great job paying those singing lessons. And she sings just like her dad. Once again, let's give another round of applause to the veterans who are honoring our flag. And ladies and gentlemen, you'll notice that POW MIA flag, the black one right after the American flag, we as veterans always acknowledge that. And that is why, to my right and to your left, there is a table there to always remember our POWs and MIAs. Thank you, gentlemen. Once again, let's give Vanessa another round of applause. I am so pleased and surprised. I heard she was practicing all week, and she did a great job. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would, please take your seats now. And I am so proud to share with you that here in the city of Pico Rivera, we love our good Lord, we love our country, we love our children, our veterans, our seniors, and here the city council works very hard to serve and represent you. We have 30 churches here in the city of Pico Rivera, and we're so proud of every single one of them. And today, representing St. Francis Xavier Catholic Church, we have for the invocation, Father Jerry Thompson. Father, welcome.
Thank you for inviting me to give the invocation on this solemn day, when we recognize all the men and women who have served with honor our great country and people. As a Vietnam-era veteran and as a child and grandchild of career military men, today is very special to me. Traveling all around the world with my father growing up was a challenge and a blessing. Leaving old friends behind and meeting new friends at the next assignment. Not so unlike today in my priesthood. I remember my time in the Air Force stationed in 1973 at Shepherd Air Force Base, Texas. I remember Operation Homecoming, when 38 U.S. military members, civilians from Vietnam, returned following their confinement as POWs in North Vietnam. There was very little fanfare except for other military members and families showing up to wish them well. A sad time in U.S. history, but a special time for those who served. Today we acknowledge the dedication of all the men and women who wore the uniform with honor, patriotism, and distinction. And so let us pray. God and creator of all that is good, today we face another conflicted time in history. But we recall what St. Paul wrote to the Romans and the Corinthians. He said that each of us have special gifts to use to build a kingdom, the kingdom of God, a place of peace. Every generation has been gifted with men and women who have offered their time and talents in our military to serve and to protect our freedoms. God of all peoples, you give our great country men and women who choose to serve you through serving their country. Bless all the veterans, those who are no longer with us in life, but are with us in spirit. Bless our veterans here present and those unable to attend our gathering. We give you thanks, O Lord, for their love of you and their commitment to service to our great country. Today, we honor those men and women. We remember and honor the veterans who have used their gifts and talents to help bring peace to this world and to keep the U.S. safe from those who wish to harm us. We ask you to bless this day and bless our veterans. May they be blessed today and forever.
Amen, Father. Thank you so very much. Today we acknowledge our veterans in a very special way. The flagpole behind me has been flying for a number of years. The flag has been flying for a number of years. Well, this year we've got a special thing about it today because we went out and purchased the largest possible flag we could find so we would honor those who have served here in Pico, Rivera and those who are serving around the world. So, raising of the flag at our monument, let us now give our attention to the post commanders as they raise our symbolic flag, a special tribute to the eternal flame which brings recognition to our fallen heroes and whose names are on the wall in our monument. Representing the American Legion Post 341, Jesse Elias. American Legion Post 411, Steve Campos. Veterans of Foreign Wars, Post 6315, Larry Adami. Veterans of Foreign Wars 7734, Armando Zapata. I would like them and all of you to acknowledge the fact that in the city of Pico Rivera, we have the eternal flame, we have the flagpole next to it, where Old Glory flies along with the POW MIA flag. Please stand, ladies and gentlemen, as we symbolically raise our flag. We've given the Pledge of Allegiance, we've acknowledged it with our beautiful song. And now, if we could just take a moment of silence to honor our fallen, and certainly the families who lost their lives and friends who've served this country throughout the world and throughout our beautiful country. They've sacrificed for us. A moment of silence. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands over your heart. Veterans, render a hand salute. Ready? Two. And ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause to our post commanders as they return to their seats. Please take your seats. The veterans here in the city of Pico Rivera have been acknowledged for all the years that I can remember, and so many of you who have lived here 40, 50, 60 years remember sending them off to various wars. Today we're acknowledging a special time, and if you'll notice the yellow ribbons on some of the trees, and remember the yellow ribbons? When the yellow ribbons started coming out, parades after parades, the Vietnam veterans who served thought, what about our parade? What about our yellow ribbons? Well, after meeting, they acknowledged, hey, those are our sons and daughters serving now. And you're damn right we're going to stand up and fly those yellow ribbons as well. So the yellow ribbons are here today in Pico Rivera, ladies and gentlemen, with pride and honor to remember all those who served our great country. So now I'd like to give special tribute and recognition to those who've put this program together. I'd like to first off acknowledge our City Council. And with us we have today our Mayor Pro Tem, Gustavo Camacho. Councilmember David Armenta. Councilmember Brent Tessero. And in the audience, we have former Councilwoman Barbara Rapasorda. Barbara, thank you for being here. And representing our State Senator, 32nd District, Tony Mendoza, we have the District Director, Ana Perez. And our department heads, starting with our Public Works Director, James Enriquez. Community and Economic Development Director, Steve Carmona. Our City Clerk, Anna Jerome. Parks and Recreation Director, Arlene Salazar. Our Parks and Recreation Commissioners, Joseph Palumbi. Commissioner John R. Garcia. And Commissioner Pat Salcido. And from our Planning Commission, we have Esther Solis, Commissioner. And from the Executive Director from our Board of Directors with the Chamber of Commerce, we have Julian Balderas. Julian. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to have you all here in such representation from everyone. But again, I can't go any further without acknowledging the men and women who serve our great fire department, the County of Los Angeles. Let's give a big round of applause to our firemen who are in the back. And to the Sheriff's Department, the deputy sheriffs here in the city of Pico Rivera. Over to my left, your right. And Gustavo Contreras, who just came in, one of our city commissioners. Let's give him a round as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know that the city of Pico Rivera never stops recognizing our first responders. Each and every month, we recognize the Deputy of the Month. We recognize the Firefighter of the Month. We've been doing that, and it's been a great, great thing to see the firefighters come together with the Sheriff's Department, and because it is a team effort from the County of Los Angeles. And ladies and gentlemen who serve with these various departments, we thank you once again for your service. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to go ahead and share some words with you, if I may. We're here today to honor our heroes. Have you heard, our veterans and those who serve and those who have lost their lives, but especially those who are here with us today, because it is you who keep the fire burning. To remember their achievements, their courage, and their dedication, and we think every single day of your sacrifices, but we must also say thank you for those sacrifices. The brave men and women who serve and protect the United States come from all walks of life, and they all come today from Pico Rivera and surrounding areas. They are parents, children, and grandparents. They are your friends, your neighbors, and co-workers, and they are all very, very important to our community. Pico Rivera has a special salute each and every time we come together. If you remember, turning the clock back just a little bit, we honored our World War II veterans, those who served during World War II. Then the next event, we honored the Vietnam era veterans, and then we also honored our Korean War veterans. And today we honor the Persian Gulf veterans, those who served in the Persian Gulf, Afghanistan, Iraq, Kuwait, those who served and are serving now. But I'd like to give you a quick recap, if I may. And the other thing that we'd like to do is go on and share with you what we're doing and why we're here today. Here's a quick recap once again of the Persian Gulf. Stay with me on this one, it's going to take just a little time. In 1991, America found itself in the middle of an armed clash between Iraq leader Saddam Hussein and his neighbor Kuwait. Saddam Hussein ruled with an iron fist and reckless fist. In 1990, Saddam Hussein sought to acquire Kuwait's vast oil reserves. Saddam ordered the invasion and occupation of neighboring Kuwait on August the 8th, 1990. Soon after the invasion, alarms went all across the nation and across the world. These actions and fellow Arabs came together with the Arab nations in Egypt, and they called upon the United States and other Western nations to intervene. Hussein defied the United Nations Security Council demands to withdraw from Kuwait by January 15, 1991, or face military action. On January 15, 1991, the offensive against the Iraq army began. Fought by a broad coalition of armed forces led by the United States, United Kingdom, France, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, among others. The first stage of the Gulf War was named Operation Desert Shield, which actually began on August 7, 1990, before the international coalition was brought together. When Saddam Hussein first invaded Kuwait, the United States rushed troops to Saudi Arabia, the world's largest oil explorer and producer, to prevent a possible attack. Before the Security Council of War could even take action, it became the American forces that came together to defend Kuwait. The main phase of the war was named Desert Storm, which began in the morning of January 17, 1991. Desert Storm was a massive U.S.-led air bombing campaign that targeted Iraq, aircraft, anti-aircraft defenses, oil refineries, communications lines, weapons factories, bridges, and roads. Using the latest American technology, including the stealth bombers, cruise missiles, so-called smart bombs, and with laser-guided systems and infrared light bombing equipment, after a month of relentless attacks by the Allied coalition aimed to finish the job, they finished it and finished it well. The coalition ground forces, known as Operation Desert Saber, began on February 24, 1991. By February 28th, the war was over. In 4 days, U.S.-led forces retook the capital and forced the Iraqi forces to retreat or surrender. In all, an estimated 30,000 Iraqi forces were killed in comparison with only 300 coalition troops. Though the Gulf War was recognized as an easy, lopsided descent of victory by the coalition, Kuwait and Iraq suffered enormous damage. In the immediate aftermath of the war, Hussein forces brutally suppressed its people. In the wake of the war, the Kurds, Shiites, and Iraqis rose up against Saddam Hussein. After the United Nations captured Saddam, and we captured him because of the fact he used chemical weapons on his own people, the civilians. Saddam was forced to allow the UN nations inspectors to come in. Saddam barred U.S. inspectors on November 13th in 1997, would not let them in. In addition, Iraq forces regularly exchanged fire with U.S. and British aircraft over the no-fly zone. From there and on, it became essential that the United States do something to remove this individual. And it snowballed. The U.S. invasion of Iraq took place on March 20th, 2003. Saddam Hussein was captured on December 13, 2003 by American forces. He was found hiding in a shallow underground hole. He was tried, convicted, and executed by the Iraqi government on December 30th, 2006. The Afghan War, which began in 2001, was triggered by the September 11th attacks, and we all remember 9/11. This led to the launch of Operation Enduring Freedom, an attempt to capture Osama bin Laden, the founder, leader of Al-Qaeda, and mastermind of 9/11 and the attack in New York City. On May 2nd, 2011, shortly after 1 a.m., Osama bin Laden was ultimately killed in Pakistan by United States Navy SEALs and Navy U.S. Special Weapons Development Group. To date, the Middle East region of the world is considered to be extremely hostile and dangerous, and we will always appreciate the veterans bravely who serve, and we'll always appreciate their gratitude. Those who served in Iraq, Afghanistan, those who continue to serve, the yellow ribbons are here on behalf of the city of Pico, Rivera. So on behalf of the citizens, we recognize your service, and all those who served before you acknowledge that. Let's give a big round of applause to our Iraqi, Afghanistan veterans. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce our special guest speaker. Today is my pleasure to introduce our special guest speaker, a Pico Rivera hometown hero, First Sergeant U.S. Marines. By the way, before I go any further, Marines, please stand. It is your birthday. Happy birthday, Marine Corps. 242nd birthday to the United States Marine Corps. Thank you, Marines, for your service. And once again, our guest speaker is a Marine, retired First Sergeant U.S. Marine Fred Aguilar Carrera. And Mr. Correll was born in Montebello and raised in Pico Rivera. Graduated from our great city's El Rancho High School. There he joined the ROTC. Coming from a family of veterans, he found his calling and joined the United States Marine Corps, serving for 26 years with 3 years active duty. Mr. Correll is a Vietnam War veteran and retired First Sergeant. During his 23 years in reserve duty, Mr. Correll saw himself serving as a military police, criminal investigator, military instructor, and eventually went on to attend the FBI's Law Enforcement Specialist course held at the FBI Academy in Guantanamo, Virginia, proudly called the West Point of law enforcement. For the past 40 years, he has been serving our country's law enforcement agencies, starting with the Baldwin Park Police Department. Mr. Correll then moved on to the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department, where he joined the prestigious SWAT team. While on duty, Mr. Correll was injured as a result of friendly fire and retired. After life-changing events that almost took his life, the National Latino Police Officers Association presented Mr. Correll with the VFW Post 8737 Law Enforcement Medal of Valor. Mr. Correll has served the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office as lieutenant and serving the coroner's investigator, and has been assisting so many high-profile cases, to develop the cases and bring these cases to trial. And after 9/11, he was totally involved in the operations that took place at Ground Zero there in New York. And so for decades, Mr. Correll has been serving our great nation, and we'd like to acknowledge the fact that he is our hometown hero. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for First Sergeant Fred Correll. First Sergeant, front and center.
Thank you very much. Happy birthday, Marines. Hurrah. It's truly an honor for me to be here today in front of you, Mayor. Thank you, and City Council, for giving me this opportunity in front of my family, federal, as well as special guests that are here. This is my hometown. I grew up here, and it brings back a lot of memories. And I walk in the streets out here, playing in the street, across the street there, playing, going to school at Durfee, North Park, and then going to Rancho. When I was told I was going to be a speaker, I had written quite a bit, and the mayor took a lot of what I was going to explain to you, because I was going to give it in sequence, but I'm going to start my presentation just at the end of where the mayor left off. I was promoted to First Sergeant 4 months before the war, Desert Storm War, broke out. And when I graduated from the advanced course in Quantico, Virginia, I was there, and upon graduating, I was told by the general who attended our graduation, where would I like to go? I mean, for the general at the base in Quantico to tell you where you want to go. I said, well, sir, there's a reserve center in my hometown. It's an artillery battery. I go, I'd like to start maybe end my career there as a first sergeant. Well, the Marine Corps makes things happen, people, and that's what happened. I ended up being the first sergeant right here in Pico, Rivera, Bravo 114. And again, this is right before the war is going to start. And at that time, I oversaw a battery of 277 Marines. Those Marines were made of people from your homes, police officers, deputy sheriffs, firefighters, construction workers, grocery store workers, college students. They answered the call. I'm going to let you know about the reserves, because part of my time in the Marine Corps, I loved the Marine Corps. Ever since I was that big, I wanted to be a Marine, because my family comes from veterans, Army, Navy, Army Air Corps, and 11th Airborne. And this is one thing that, since I was that big, and I'd see one of them in uniform, whether it be a police officer, military personnel, or firefighter, I look at them and I said, one day I want to be like them. I want to be one of them. And again, my wish came true. One of the things that ended up happening when the war started, up until this time, for those of you that served active duty, we all started on active duty. Some went into the reserve program. We were termed and given the term weekend warriors. Well, you know what? That changed when Desert Storm broke out. The so-called weekend warriors were no longer weekend warriors. They were being called to full-time active duty. That hadn't happened since the Korean War. And to this day, ladies and gentlemen, fellow veterans, it's still going on. Our brothers and sisters in the reserve program and the National Guard are still being called upon. We learned one thing when it first started, taking care of our troops. I was getting phone calls from family. It was no longer a weekend drill. This was the real thing. Bravo 114, as I said, accompanied 277 Marines to maintain 9 155 millimeter howitzers, 7 5-ton trucks, and by that time we had gotten rid of the Jeeps, but we had the Humvees at that time. And again, it was to maintain these drivers, motor T sections, to get them ready to go. The day we were notified, my unit thought again, oh, this is just a drill weekend. No, it wasn't. As soon as they came in, we locked that gate. They looked, and I had 3 sentries on that gate. The commanding officer already had told us as soon as by 2200 tonight, we're going to have buses loaded. Again, we were working side by side with the active duty Marines, as all the other branches did. You couldn't tell who was a reservist or National Guardsman. We were all being called to do our duties, and that's what we did. It so happens that when they showed up, a lot of them didn't have their gear. And remember, they thought it was a weekend drill. Once we got them squared away with our supply, we had buses coming up. And again, we were an artillery unit, artillery battery. Our sister unit was Oscar Battery out of, now it's closed, it's a fire, LA County, I believe the LA County Fire Training Center over there right off of Sunset, right below Dodger Stadium. That was the former Oscar Battery there. It's a Marine Corps Reserve Center. And that was our sister unit. That evening, we had buses from Camp Pendleton show up to take what Marines did show up. By that weekend, we had them all. And they were deployed with the active duty Marines out of Las Pulgas, where the 11th Marines, that's the artillery battery for active duty Marines there at Camp Pendleton. And by the weekend, they were gone on their way to Kuwait. I spoke to many, and upon coming back, ladies and gentlemen, as I said, these were our hometown heroes from Pico, Rivera, who went out there and came back. All of our Marines came back from both batteries, Oscar and Bravo Battery, and they came back, and thank God they came back in one piece. But again, this had just started. One of the things that are going on that happens since the events of 9/11, the battles in Iraq and Afghanistan have continued. Terrorism has become our new enemy. And it's no longer the way it was prior to 9/11. I can tell you, having been there and assisting in one of the biggest crime scene investigations in the history of the United States at Ground Zero, it was unbelievable. One of the things I'm always asking, I want to share this with you, is that we met 3 rabbis that were part of the Israeli forces that were there that day. They were getting ready to go back to Tel Aviv, Israel, and they took us on a tour to Ground Zero. They took us to an area that was called the First Kill Landfill. If you remember, as you saw the footage from 9/11, all the barges that were being taken in back of trucks were taken to a loading dock that went across the river to New Jersey. And that's where they were being taken and stored there, along with all the vehicles that were removed from downtown New York City. Anything that had to do with the actual attack. And ladies and gentlemen, one of the things for my teams that were there was to identify victims. I work at the coroner's office, and we were called there as part of a federal team. And since we're trained in mass fatalities, that's what we did to take care of those families. They were impacted so great. We were shocked. We didn't know what was going to happen. But you know what? You look around. These deputies, firefighters you see anywhere, they were there, and they were there responding, doing their job. And they would always be there, as well as our military. And seeing this, it was just, I love this country. I was so proud to be part of it, to be there when this happened. And again, when I got back to my unit, one of the first things I told my Marines there was that, everything that you did 10 years ago, guess what? It's gonna go. We're in that right now, but let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, and to my fellow veterans, you know that. Just like when you responded, you were there, you responded to the call. This is the United States of America. And believe me, no, there's no country better than this country. I told you that one of the things I always look for was to make sure that I could be one of them. Directly behind me is a memorial. I'm going to tell you about 3 of those. names that are up there: Lance Corporal Raymond Ruiz, Lance Corporal Jose Villanueva, and PFC George Juarez. I grew up with him. We grew up with him as we were children in the neighborhood, and they responded. All three enlisted in the Marine Corps. And as far as Raymond, he was killed in combat a few months in country. Jose Villanueva was killed as a victim of friendly fire after weeks of being in Vietnam. I was fortunate, nothing happened to me there. I brought a fellow Marine home who was killed. And all three are buried at Resurrection Cemetery. That's their eternal resting place. At the same time, George Juarez, that was my Nino, Tati Juarez's nephew. And it wasn't, as we get together like this, back in 1995, I was attending a veterans function like this. And I met a fellow deputy sheriff from LA County. Bob Perry is a sheriff homicide sergeant that we work closely together with the Sheriff's Department, fellow Marine. And I was looking at books that they were sharing there about this one particular deputy's experience in Vietnam. And as I'm looking at the pictures, who do I see? Georgie Juarez. And I said, "Hey, you know this guy?" And he says, "Yeah, I know him." He says, "What do you know?" He goes, "That's my Nino's nephew." He goes, "We grew up together." He goes, "Really?" He says, "Wow." He says, "Well, you know what happened?" I said, I just know he was killed. When it ended up happening, he goes 3 pages forward. One thing, and for those of you, as I say this, it's going to bring memories to you. Remember that, because this is something that to tell those that weren't there, that never went through that. Whenever someone was killed in a unit, before the remains were sent back, they went ahead and had their own service at their base station there before they were brought back. He showed me a listing there for services on that day, a week after he was killed. And he says, "Look, George's name was on the first. Below George's name were 6 other names, 2 Navy corpsmen and 4 Marines." And what happened was, Georgie was a point man. His squad went out, and as they went out there was part of the lead company. They went to an open field, and as they went on, he was ambushed. He wasn't killed then, but he was still alive and still moving. And as our corpsmen, any corpsmen out there, God bless you. You're the gods, and you are there. You're the true angels for our Marines in the field. God bless you, and all the corpsmen are out there, and medics. And on this particular afternoon, the corpsman didn't hesitate. He went out there. Well, what they did, they drew their fire. They did it on purpose because they knew we'd go out there. We wouldn't leave them out there. And sure enough, corpsman went down. Another corpsman went out there with another Marine. And as I said, the 6 names that were there were the ones that were killed trying to bring George's body back. I didn't know this. He told me this. He showed me the picture. He showed me the picture of where he was back at the base that I had seen him there in Da Nang where I was at. And he says, "Look, there he is." I go, "Yeah." And he's playing with kids, always joking around. And he gave me that picture in that service for his mother. I went to go see his mother and his brothers. And she just cried and cried and cried and thanked me. And then also the deputy went down there before he retired to talk to her and tell her more about what happened that day. This is one thing that, as I stand before you after I had the opportunity to go out and become a Marine, I waited at Camp Pendleton to get reassigned. And as I was waiting, they made me a Marine chaser. And I see some of your faces, a Marine chaser, what is that? Well, what it was, this assignment was picking up returning Marines who had deserted and bringing them back for court-martial. This was an assignment that changed my life. I got to see and speak to those who had destroyed their lives. Now they were trying to make their lives right. As Marines, we help those that need and cannot help themselves. It was then that I realized I wanted to keep helping. I chose to remain in the United States Marine Corps Reserve and pursue my career and my profession, law enforcement. A year ago, there was a movie that came out. It was called Hacksaw Ridge. And this was a movie about the battle that took place in Okinawa. And Hacksaw Ridge was a mountain where U.S. troops had to climb to attack the enemy who was entrenched. Ladies and gentlemen, and my fellow veterans, one of the things that I had asked when I had talked to Mayor Archuleta's staff was to acknowledge to acknowledge someone who is so special and inspirational.
Give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Give him a chance to get that together. It's okay, brother. You're among family. Okay? You're with family. You take your time. We're not going anywhere. Right? Right. We're here for you, brother.
Yeah. My fellow veterans and guests, it's my great pleasure and honor to present my hero, my papa, Federico Corral, who served with pride and distinction in the U.S. Army, 96th Infantry Division, 382nd Infantry Company, and was severely wounded. He was reported killed in action, then missing in action, and when he was finally found, they told my grandparents that he was wounded in action. He was hit by an artillery shell and then shot. Ladies and gentlemen, he is a true miracle. And everything that he used to say as I was growing up, that movie, Hacksaw Ridge, he talked about how the Japanese, the fighters that they were, and that movie depicts it. As we celebrate Veterans Day, if you have the time, please rent that so you can see it for yourself. Papa, God bless you. He received the Presidential Unit Citation, 2 Purple Hearts, Brown and Bronze Star Medals. He is truly a miracle for what he went through. Thank you all, Mr. Mayor, City Council, my family, and to you, my veterans and guests. God bless the USA. God bless you, Papa, and my familia. Thank you.
Thank you, First Sergeant. Ladies and gentlemen, if we learned anything from his speech, we learned that the city of Pico Rivera is made up of families who send their men and women off to war to defend our great country. And when they arrive, they look at the names, Sanchez, Gomez, Garcia, Benavides, Hernandez, say, where are you from, young man? I'm from the city of Pico Rivera, where we love God and country. That's where I'm from. And I think that's what we heard today. And First Sergeant Corral to talk about his father who served in World War II and made it home, recipient of Purple Heart and Bronze Star. I mean, it goes on. And right now I can point to all the veterans that are out there that proudly wear their airborne wings or their patches or whatever it may be, and their veterans hats because they're proud. And there was a time we wouldn't do that. But now we can, and we're going to continue doing that right here in Pico Rivera. We're going to continue honoring our men and women in uniform, and you know why we can? Because we have a great city council. What do you think of that? And I'd like to begin by acknowledging our Mayor Pro Tem, who's going to come out and say a few words. Ladies and gentlemen, Gustavo Camacho, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Sergeant Aguilera, for those kind words, those sharing your story with us. Thank you very much for being here. Good morning, veterans. Good morning, Pico Rivera.
Good morning.
Okay, now I know why we failed you with the coffee, with that response, right? Come on, once again, good morning, Pico Rivera. There we go. Let's get some energy here. We're proud to be here with you, always joining our council, our colleagues, and all of you being here today, and to obviously recognize all the men and women who have served proudly here in the United States, and of course, celebrate all those individuals who are no longer with us, who have sacrificed their lives, but also recognize and thank all the families, all the moms and dads, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters who also have sacrificed a family member. I too, have a brother-in-law who served in Iraq and is now a Coast Guard, but seeing my in-laws and my wife day in and day out, and the unknown and seeing the mixed of emotions, I gotta tell you, it's an experience, and I thank you for the support. But again, more importantly, thank you all the men and women who have served this great country. And we are a proud family. We are a proud city. And it's important to recognize that, as the mayor mentioned, we do have 60 years coming up next year, celebrating 60 years of the history of Pico Rivera. And we cannot continue celebrating those 60 years without acknowledging our veterans, because our veterans are the foundation of the city. This city was built with our veterans, and it's important that we recognize them, and we will continue to recognize them this year. And that's why I would like to ask my colleagues next year, working alongside our leadership of the BFW post, the 4 that we have today, that we have here, to look at the possibility of maybe looking at this great eternal flame behind us, this great monument, and giving it a facelift. How about that? You guys acknowledge that? Could we do something of that? I think it's important that all the men that are recognized there are other men that should also be recognized. So again, thank you for having me. Thank you for serving our country. And thank you all the families who support our great city of Pico Rivera.
Thank you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, David Armenta, whose dad is a World War II veteran who served with the 101st Airborne, and David's very proud of that. Ladies and gentlemen, Councilmember David Armenta.
Mayor, thank you very much. Council, veterans, Women's Auxiliary, moms, dads, sisters, brothers, cousins, grandmas, grandpas, all of you that have had someone or supported someone that went away to fight for our great nation, thank you very much. I would love to go on. I had a nice big speech, but our mayor has taken up my time because he's in a rush, so he's taking up my time. But I just want to say thank you for being here. Pico Rivera loves you. Pico Rivera welcomes you. Pico Rivera is your home whenever you want to come to Pico Rivera. So thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you, David, for giving me up your time. And now, once again, ladies and gentlemen, another one who has a great dad, and I've got to share this, that Brent Tessero has an outstanding father who worked for the Veterans Administration, who's given so many years upon years serving our veterans. So, Brent, to your dad, thank you. Thank you for serving our veterans. But ladies and gentlemen, Councilmember Brent Tessero.
Good morning, Pico Rivera. Thank you for being here. To all of our veterans, everything that you've done in the past, everything you continue to do today, it means a lot to our city. It means a lot to us individually as well. Growing up, we idolize the men and women who serve in our armed forces, and that still happens today. People my age still idolize the men and women who serve, and people who are younger still idolize the men and women who serve. And I'm glad to see you all here. And I would love to ask you also to reach out to those who are younger, who are coming back, who are new veterans, who are coming out of their service, and reach out and welcome them into the VFW, welcome them to your posts here, welcome them to ceremonies like this, because the young men and women who are coming back, they need help as much as everyone else does. And I'm glad that we're able to serve you all here, and I'm glad that you continue to be our idols and be our heroes, because you all paved the way for us, and you all allowed us to achieve the dreams that we are achieving today. So thank you so much. And as the mayor said, thank you to my father who serves for the Department of Veterans Affairs. If you need anything from the department, he's a very tall man. You can't miss him. So if you just, when everyone stands up, you just look around, look for the tallest man in the crowd. That's the veterans guy, the Department of Veterans Affairs guy. So if you have any questions, you can go ask him. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, also I'd like to acknowledge someone who just came in. Monica Garcia, our commissioner. Monica, stand up and be recognized, one of our commissioners for Parks and Rec. Thank you so very much. And I got a note that I just received of an old friend of mine who is no longer with us, and I have to take a moment to acknowledge him, and that's Jose Ramos. And Jose Ramos, who lived in the city of Whittier, who started Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Day, and that's why the month of March is special to all of us who served during the Vietnam era, because we come together to acknowledge all those who served during the Vietnam era. And Jose Ramos put us together, and so Jose, I know you're up there looking down, and we're going to continue honoring our veterans every single day. So that's our Jose Ramos. So to his family, thank you for his service. Fellow paratrooper too, 101st Airborne. Well, speaking of family, we always welcome someone to our family here in Pico Rivera, and that's Tony Perez, who's our senator, our state senator, and he couldn't make it today, but he sent over his director, Anna Perez. Let's bring her up. Anna?
Good morning. On behalf of Senator Tony Mendoza, thank you for having me today. He wants to send his heartfelt gratitude to all our veterans, especially for leaving your families, for shedding your sweat, your blood, your tears, for giving us this wonderful freedom that we have. So I'd like to present this certificate to our mayor and the city council. On behalf of Senator Mendoza, thank you for acknowledging all our veterans on a yearly basis, and thank you for the wonderful ceremony that you do on a yearly basis. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's Tony Mendoza, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry, I've got Anna Perez and I said Tony Mendoza, but it's a beautiful proclamation here for the city of Pico Rivera from the State Senate. So please, Anna, tell Tony Mendoza we thank him for it, and we know that if he can be here, he would. So, speaking of being here, you know who's here? The Army, the Navy, the Air Force, Marine Corps, and we're going to acknowledge you by your song. So, if you hear that song and it rings true memories and it brings you back, please stand and be recognized. The United States Army, please stand for your song. Please render a hand salute, gentlemen and ladies, to the United States Army. Okay, and to the United States Marine Corps, happy birthday. Please stand and render your salute to the United States Marine Corps. Hey, and those sailors out there, the United States Navy, please stand, sailors, and acknowledge your song and your hand salute to the United States Navy. And to the United States Air Force, our flyboys. Air Force members, please stand and render your hand salute. And to the United States Coast Guard, if you're out there, please stand and render your hand salute. I see one. Let's give him a round of applause. He's our only one. There you go. Our Coast Guard. Wow, let's give them a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. And this is obviously Veterans Day, where we recognize our veterans, and what better way to hear from our veterans individually. So something we started here in Pico Rivera a few events back, is we would invite the veterans themselves to grab a microphone and give me your name, rank, and, not your serial number, your name, rank, and branch of service. Name, rank, and branch of service. So please, veterans, be ready. And the microphones are spread out. Staff, are we ready to go? We have some microphones here. Please raise your hand. We have one here. And we have some microphones over there. So those of you who are veterans, please stand, form a line. And those of you who may be in a wheelchair, we'll bring a staff member over. But this is something that I know you can appreciate. So audience, be patient with us, because each veteran in the house, I would like to have them come up and state their name. So please, let's go ahead. Veterans, come on up. We've got one right over here. And let me begin. Archuleta, Bob, Sergeant, United States Army. Hoorah! Next one.
Dada, John C., U.S. Army.
Next one.
Sergio Lopez, Master Sergeant, United States Army.
Got it. We're going to alternate from one to the other. Come on, veterans. Every veteran in the house would like to have your name, rank, and branch of service. This is your time.
Pete Ramirez, U.S. Army, Staff Sergeant.
All right. Next one.
Robert Cardenas, Sergeant, United States Marine Corps, Helicopter Crew Chief.
Good. Thank you for your service.
Gilbert Morales, Sergeant, Army.
All right. Sound off like you got, you know what.
John Calzada, Specialist 4th Class, United States Army, Vietnam veteran.
All right. Welcome home.
Max Avalos, United States Marine Corps.
Hoorah. Welcome home.
Ken Medina, Spec 5, Combat Aviation Brigade.
Welcome home. Get it up close. I've got a World War II veteran. Name, rank, and branch of service.
91st Infantry Division.
We get it?
Yeah.
Okay, let's give a round of applause. World War II veteran.
Richard Ramirez, hull technician, 3rd Class, United States Navy, served on the USS Buck DD-761, serial number D825871.
You are not a prisoner of war. Don't worry about it. Name, rank, and branch of service.
Richard Salas, Sergeant, Army.
All right, thank you, Sergeant. Loud and clear. Let's get him back in there.
Brett Corral, Pete Army, Pete
World War II, 93, see, 3 Purple Hearts, Bronze Star, Unit Citation, and Infantry Combat Badge.
Here we go. Thank you. Welcome home. Over to the left.
Rick Marmolejo, Spec 4, U.S. Army.
All right. Welcome both. Thank you.
Frederick Corral, United States Marine Corps, First Sergeant. Hoorah!
Hoorah. Thank you. Welcome home.
Larry Jimenez, United States Marine Corps Corporal, Vietnam veteran. Hoorah!
Hey, thank you so much.
Paul Richard Camacho, Corporal, United States Marine Corps, Artillery.
Hey, welcome home. Get the microphone down for him. There we go.
Richard D. Pacheco, United States Marine Corps.
All right, welcome home. Next one, this side here.
Armando Zepeda, Sergeant, United States Air Force, Vietnam veteran.
All right, thank you. Welcome home.
Corporal Raul Lozado, Army Air Corps.
Army, World War II veteran, Army Air Corps.
Mac Rodriguez, Army, life member of Disabled American Veterans.
Thank you for your service.
Second World War. CB, United States American Navy, and third class petty officer, Second World War.
Thank you for your service. Next one.
Pete Salcido, U.S. Army, Specialist 4, 101st Airborne.
Airborne, welcome home.
Luis Fernandez, E5, United States Marine Corps.
All right, welcome home.
James Waters, United States Navy, Korea.
Thank you for your service. Up close to the microphone so we can hear you.
John Pico, United States Marine Corps, Lance Corporal, Combat Engineer. Hoorah!
Hoorah, welcome home.
Jose Paez, United States Marine Corps, Iraq, Afghanistan.
All right, thank you.
Vietnam. Combat veteran, Manny Saldivar.
All right, brother.
Stephen Campos, U.S. Army Staff Sergeant.
Staff Sergeant, thank you for your service.
Ruben Valencia, United States Marine Corps Corporal.
All right, thank you so much.
Randy Parker, PFC.
Hey, let's do it one more time, loud and clear.
Randy Parker, PFC First Class, Second World War.
All right, thank you for your service. World War II veteran.
Steve Ortiz, E4, USMC.
Thank you, Marine.
Francisco Barraza, U.S. Air Force, Korean vet.
Thank you for your service. The chosen frozen.
Gil Carrillo, Spec 5 U.S. Army and retired from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department.
Thank you.
Larry Adama, Corporal, United States Marine Corps, I Corps, Vietnam, Quai San Valley.
Welcome home.
Alfred Valenzuela, U.S. Army Specialist, Fort Ord, California.
All right, welcome home.
Daniel G. Miramontes, United States Navy Reserve, 78, E3.
All right, thank you so much.
Paul Bish, United States Army, E5, Vietnam veteran, 25th Infantry.
All right, welcome home.
Danny Garcia, United States Navy, Korean vet.
Okay, thank you so much. This is so very important to the city of Pico Rivera. Look at all the veterans that are lining up. God love you. Let's continue.
Mike Cisneros, U.S. Army, Vietnam, 101st, Aviation, 1st Aviation Brigade.
All right, airborne.
Reyes Bueno, Junior Specialist 4 Army.
Okay, welcome home.
Arturo Delgadillo, Sergeant, United States Army, Vietnam, 7 Cap.
All right, welcome home, brother.
Mike Cervantes, U.S. Army Sergeant, Artillery and Anti-Aircraft.
All right, thank you home. Thank you, and welcome home.
Sergeant Valderrama, United States Marine Corps, Vietnam vet. Sergeant Valderrama, First Class, retired, U.S. Army, Desert Storm.
God love you. Welcome home.
Joe Garcia, Sergeant, Army, 3rd Infantry Regiment, the Old Guard, and from my recently deceased dad, Navy, Zeke Garcia, World War II.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you for your dad as well.
Ralph Serrano, Corporal, United States Marine Corps, 1st, 2nd, 3rd Tanks, class of 1962 El Rancho.
All right, welcome home, Don.
Jack Fryer, Infantry, World War II veteran.
World War II. Oh my God, thank you so much.
Raymond Campos Jr., Petty Officer, 2nd Class, part of U.S. Ranger Fighter Squadron 29 off the Gulf of Tonkin, Vietnam War.
Thank you for your service. Welcome home, brother.
Richard Covarrubias, 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines, Vietnam, United States Marine Corps.
Thank you, Richard.
Andy Castorena, Spec 5, United States Army.
All right, Specialist, thank you.
George Frary, Spec 4, 25th Medical Battalion, Vietnam.
And thank you, Specialist.
Ignacio Sanchez, United States Marine Corps, E4, Artillery, Vietnam vet. And I love this country. Hoorah!
Welcome home.
John Martinez, Korean War, 105's Artillery.
Wow, thank you, the chosen frozen. Thank you so much for your service. Up
Arturo
next.
Aguilar, U.S. Navy, Electrician, 3rd Class, World War II.
Oh my goodness, World War II veteran.
Major Frank Drago, Vietnam veterans. Hoorah!
Hoorah, welcome home, brother.
EFC, Albert Sandoval, joined the Army 52.
Thank you. Over here on this side.
Terry Anders, U.S. Army, Spec 4.
All right, thank you. Welcome home.
Dave Marquez, Specialist 4, U.S. Army, Vietnam 66, 67.
Welcome home, brother.
Eddie Castorina, E4, Army.
All right, thank you for your service.
Greg Avalos, Sergeant, U.S. Army.
All right, thank you so much.
Jesus Garcia, U.S. Army, Vietnam, Bronze Star.
All right, thank you so much.
John Perez, Sergeant, Army, 9th Division, Vietnam, 68-69.
Great, thank you.
Art Lucero, Specialist 5, U.S. Army, Navy, and Coast Guard.
All right, guys, thank you so much.
Adrian Zavala, Staff Sergeant, United States Marine Corps.
Welcome home, Marine.
Armando Enriquez, U.S. Army, Spec 4, Vietnam veteran.
Thank you, Mando. Appreciate it.
John Hager, United States Navy, Korea.
Big J, thank you.
Manuel Castaneda, Sergeant, Big Red 1, Vietnam.
Big Red 1, thank you so much.
Private 1st Class Rudy Casas, 1949, 7th Infantry Division, occupation of Japan, 1950, Korea, Incheon.
All right, Rudy, thank you.
Larry Scott, Spec 4, Army.
Okay, let's do that one more time. Let's bring you back one more time. Get that mic up there.
Larry Scott, Spec 4, Army.
Good, thank you. Welcome home.
Chris Valenzuela, Specialist 5, Johnson Atoll, Hawaii.
All right, thank you for your service.
Manuel Castaneda Jr., Petty Officer, 2nd Class, United States Navy, go for it.
Okay, Manuel, thank you for your service.
My name's Castaneda, Spec 4, 1st Infantry Division, Vietnam veteran.
All right, welcome home, brother.
Al Oresti, United States Navy machinist mate on board the USS Ernest G. Small, 838, Korea.
Korea, okay, shipmate.
Tom DePoncio served aboard the heavy cruiser USS Los Angeles, the United States Navy.
All right, for the Navy.
United States Army, Artillery.
Thank you, welcome home.
Marcos Calvillo, Sergeant 1st Class, United States Army.
Thank you for your service.
David Ayala, U.S. Army, U.S. Forces in Austria and Italy, 1940 to 1956, 3 generations military.
All right, welcome home, airborne. Over here.
Edward Hernandez, U.S. Army, 9th Infantry Division, Vietnam.
Welcome home.
Ronald Sanchez, United States Marine,
Bend it down. Let's get it.
Armenta Sanchez, United States Marines.
Welcome home, Marine. Simplify and happy birthday.
Sergeant Thomas Perez, Korea, 2nd Division, 5th Regiment Combat Team, Korea.
Welcome home, young sergeant.
Pedro Quintero, U.S. Army, Sergeant, Korea.
Welcome home. The chosen frozen.
Rafael Torres, Spec 4, U.S. Army.
John Quintero, Army Airborne, E4.
The 82nd Airborne. Welcome home. Ladies and gentlemen, did we get every veteran in the house recognized? To our veterans, you realize, ladies and gentlemen, do you realize how many years it's been before any one of these veterans got before a group of people that yelled a little bit, shouted, screamed, or where they just can barely be heard, but they said those great words. I am a veteran, United States Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, Coast Guard. They identified themselves all for you. We have one more.
U.S. Navy, Chuck Bethel.
And your name?
Chuck Bethel.
There you go, Jess. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it took a little time, but we did this the very first time, and we got nothing but positives from the veterans and the families to say thank you for allowing my dad to get up in front of the mic and mention to everybody that he was a Marine, or that he was a paratrooper, or that he was a sailor, or an airman, whatever. But you gave us the time. And as our guest speaker started to break down a little bit, we gave him all the time. Because here in Pico Rivera, we know that the time that the veterans gave to us is so precious. So we have to acknowledge their time with us. Am I right? Yeah. I'm telling you, we love you here in Pico Rivera. So I'd like to now close up a little bit by saying thank you, all those who attended today. And I'd like to bring Father up before I do. I'd just like to say that I am so proud that the City Council works with me every single day to do the things that we need to do as a team. Our City Council has been recognized throughout the County of Los Angeles as being able to put programs together. You tell me where you can have 10,000 people right up here on this street every single Friday in the month of August to entertain the community. Every single Friday. 10,000 people, not a single problem. How did we give away candy to our kids? 7,500 families and kids here at the park for Halloween. How do we do it on Thanksgiving when we give away food for those who need? How do we do it at Christmas time when we're there for everybody? Because we are a family, we are a community, and we couldn't do it if you didn't allow us to do it. So ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to have my City Council colleagues stand up and take a bow with me. Council members, please stand up. They're the ones that put this together for you, ladies and gentlemen. Our City Council, my colleagues, that work hard for you every single day. So, as we honor God and country, we'd like to close with the good words from Father Jerry Thompson. Father, will you give us our blessing as we finish up our day?
I didn't want to risk going up and down the stairs to get in line with Jerry Thompson, Sergeant, U.S. Air Force. Let us pray. God of peace, we have come together today to honor our veterans and pray for those who died in the service of our country. We pray for those men and women who have been scarred physically and mentally from the tragedies of war, that our government will do everything possible to help our veterans lead healthy, happy, and productive lives. We pray also for men and women who serve today, our future veterans, and we pray for our leaders whose responsibilities can bring people into harm's way. We pray that our leaders use care when sending our men and women to battle. God and Creator of all, we ask you to bless everyone present here with your grace and peace. And we ask this in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Father. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd just like to close by saying this. Thank you so very much, Pico Rivera. Thank you to the City Council, Parks and Rec, to the employees here in the city who helped put up the tents and the chairs and everything else, and the breakfast. Let's give them a big round of applause. And Father, thank you so much. The Southern California Brass Band behind me will now close up with America the Beautiful. So please stand, ladies and gentlemen, for our final tribute to our veterans. God bless Pico Rivera. Thank you, everybody. God bless you for being here. And we'll see you again on Memorial Day. God bless you, and thank you all.